We are 10 episodes in and halfway done, outpacing our Nomad run and headed for Coastal Highway while we're at it. Hello, Legion. This is Hadrian. Thank you for being here. Let's play some more of The Long Dark in our Against All Challenges meta-series, where we are taking on the Archivist Challenge. Pretty cool to already be halfway done with this. The Nomad Challenge and the Archivist Challenge, I'm going to take a quick look at my inventory here. I don't think I need this newsprint. I'm not carrying anything too extra heavy. I did have an extra pair of, I think, fleece mittens. I harvested those, like, out of sheer habit as soon as I loaded up the game, and I was like, oh, I should probably hit record before I do anything else. Oh, yes, and I am still carrying this hacksaw, but just going to hold on to it. No reason in particular, no rhyme or reason at all. No reason to have it, no reason not to have it. At this point, we're not far above our maximum carrying capacity, so it's not hurting us too much. Let's head to Coastal Highway. So yeah, these first two challenges that we're taking on, we finished the Nomad Challenge, halfway done with the Archivist Challenge. Definitely the two... I mean, there are certainly challenges to go that are still based on, like, traveling from location to location throughout the world, but those are much more challenging base rule sets that we'll be working with when we're doing those things. With this particular... Oh. Weather changed somewhat quickly. I felt like it was a little bit brighter when I stepped outside a moment ago. Yeah, with this particular playthrough, we've been dealing with, and the last one for that matter, we've been dealing with the issue of just needing to knock out the two most ridiculously easy challenges first. So that's one of the main reasons I'm excited. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited to complete the challenge, but I'm also just excited to have it over with, to be honest. I like this more than Nomad because especially the nighttime moments, like the one that we had in Mystery Lake and Forlorn Muskeg in the very last episode, that was delightful. Like, I loved every moment of that. And I like the idea of more frequent aurora. That's something that would be fun to play with in a future series if there was a way for me to build it into the narrative. So, like, it's definitely giving me ideas, but this is still taking place on the lowest difficulty rungs of the set of all challenges in the Long Dark that we would like to go up against. And so it's nice to feel like we are on a roll and not having to sit and wait for time to pass like we did in Nomad. We do have to wait for an aurora, but they seem to be fairly frequent, which is nice. And so we are just moving right along, and I will do my best not to dally as we move towards the next tier of challenges, both of which will be a higher difficulty level. Still not the highest, still not particularly challenging. There have been some cheeky comments pointing out, don't let this lull you into a false sense of security, Hadrian. And it's like, look, okay, guys, I've been gone for 2 years. Yes, it's true. I haven't played the Long Dark very much over that time. Yes, that's true. But that doesn't mean that every last bit of my skill with this game evaporated. I was a little bit rusty at first when the series started, just because there was a lot to manage doing commentary and gameplay again at the same time. But half of the adjustment process, frankly, not all of it, but half the adjustment process has just been playing on these higher difficulty levels where I have all this frickin' stuff that I don't know what to do with. That's not the same as not having inventory management capability for me or any other player. That's too many things. It's a different form of inventory management than I'm accustomed to from the difficulty that I most often play on. And I have played using a code that is more or less the prototype for Against All Odds Season 7 multiple times offline, not recorded. Every now and then I've streamed for like a friend or two to watch. That's one of the things I've especially done over the last calendar year. I've been like working myself back into the mindset of content creation. And so occasionally there have been people watching, but for the most part, it's just been a handful of people, 1, 2, or 3. And it's been in private spaces. And also, aside from that, most of the gameplay that I've done has been on my own. And on high difficulty. So, in terms of the false sense of security argument, I understand where you're coming from, and it's definitely something. I should not be arrogant about this. I should not be presumptuous. But let me say this as humbly as possible. Don't underestimate me. I can make goofy mistakes sometimes, especially in these low difficulty runs where I'm dealing with problems that I would never run into on the runs that you've seen me do a bunch of. But I think there are a few people, and this is not a criticism, I find it amusing more than anything. Not a criticism at all. I think there are a few people who are more worried than they should be. So if you're one of those people who maybe hasn't voiced your worry, there you go. My personal assurance that you can exhale a little bit, and that a lot of the kind of wonkiness and rustiness that I've been working through in these lower level challenges has more to do, or at least a significant amount to do, just with the adjustment to the lower difficulty. And on top of that, again, you have adjustment to commentating and playing at the same time, which, when you haven't done it for a long time, you do have to learn how to do it again. Which, by the way, that's what I'm doing literally right now while I'm talking. I've actually started this episode. You might have noticed I started outside. I started this particular recording probably 3 or 4 times before this current start that we're going with. Why? Because I was thrown off by some of the environmental effects in the very beginning as we moved through that transition zone behind us, this transition zone. I mean, you can kind of hear this waterfall, the waterfall off to the left, but it was such a loud waterfall near the beginning of the transition zone that I found myself not talking because I'm not in the habit of continuing to commentate and filling the space. Not that I have to talk all the time, but it's a good habit to be in when you're doing content creation. You should continue to engage with the people listening. And I'd rather do that than just be quiet, even if there's a loud waterfall in the background. Now, obviously, if there's nice music playing, I'll shut up for that. But this very episode is an example of, like, one where an adjustment was needed based on the fact that I'm still getting back into the flow, and I run into things from time to time that are challenging because I haven't done them in a while. So you've seen that more in this challenge and in the previous challenge. You'll see it less as time goes on. And I also think, in some ways, I think that having the additional challenge of the higher difficulties, no pun intended, having the additional difficulty once we start moving into the next tier and the one after that and the one after that, I think that's going to focus me a lot. I think it's going to help me, put my attention on things like the hacksaw, for example. They are just not that significant to me right now because everything is not as life or death as it could be. Okay, so what's our first location? Let's take a quick look. I know there's a very loud waterfall to the left of us. We're just going to ignore that. We have to go to the fishing cabin. Okay. I'll poke my head into the construction hut up here, but I'm not going to spend a particularly long time in this particular area. I'm using the word particular too much. I'm not going to hang out here too long. So, especially since it's still, midday? Yeah, it's noon. And the weather is very calm and foggy, so I'm going to take advantage of this. I just want to see if there's anything that looks amazingly useful, as opposed to particularly useful, in this next hut. I know, I'm being a cheeseball. I would say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I'm just not. At least I'm honest. All right. Let's see what we've got. See? A couple of cans of food and another can opener, which I do not need. Trail boots. Man. Alright, nothing there. Work pants. I really don't need them. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, the idea of seeing a pair of work pants and not even, like, picking them up. What the F, David Blaine? You know? Like, that's what I'm talking about. We won't have these problems. Not only once we get to the second half of Against All Challenges, the meta series, not this series specifically, but the second half of the entire meta series, the second, like the back half of the challenges. Once we're there, not going to be a problem. Once we're back to playing Against All Odds level series, which again, the next code that I'm running, if you missed my saying it the first time, the code that I've been running since I finished Season 6, that I've been practicing with, I've had this code for a long time now. Doesn't have a rifle. It has a revolver, but it doesn't have a rifle. So it's going to rely more on the bow and arrow than I ever have in the past, which is just weird to even say out loud. Can I just say? That's a strange string of words to put together. That's an interesting set of phrases to juxtapose. All right, so the first place we need to go is the fishing hut, and I'm trying to remember where this path takes me. As I mentioned during the Nomad Challenge, I still, like, to this day, I mean, I suppose if I sat down one day and, like, studied the map, or just, like, maybe started on a lower difficulty level. By the way, if you're newer to the Long Dark and you're watching me play, or if you haven't even played the Long Dark, but you enjoy this so far and you're thinking you might play it at some point, if you're trying to learn maps, especially as a new player, but even not as a new player, if you're trying to learn maps as a returning player or someone who knows the old maps like I do, but not necessarily all of the new maps, I highly recommend using either a low difficulty like Voyager or Stalker even. Stalker has more wolves. Certainly Pilgrim if you're brand new. Stalker if you feel like you can handle the challenge. Never start on Interloper, we've talked about this. It's just not smart. Even if you feel like you're an awesome gamer, don't do that. You're cheating yourself by doing that. What I mean by that, just to clarify very quickly, if you've never heard me say this before, many of you have, but I'll clarify anyway. Interloper is one of those difficulty modes. A lot of games have done this lately where, like, the game's been out for a while and a lot of players have mastered it. And so the game will release, and I'm saying the game here referring to games in general, not just the Long Dark. The game will release a new difficulty mode that is harder than the previous difficulty mode. State of Decay 2 did the same thing not too long ago. They added a difficulty mode called Nightmare, I think. I think Nightmare's the highest, because Dread's the zone above Standard, and then... No. They added Lethal on top of Nightmare. So there was Nightmare at the top, and then they added Lethal. Same basic concept. Your game's been out for a few years. People have learned how to survive and do really well. So they give you a new mode to make the experience feel fresh again. So in my opinion, and the opinion of many people in the comments section in the community, if you're new to the Long Dark, even if you feel like you're a good gamer, fine, start on Stalker. Start on Voyager at the lowest. But then once you've mastered the game and really feel comfortable, then jump into Interloper, because then you get that wonderful feeling of, oh my god, this is really freaking hard. And you kind of get to double dip in that feeling of experiencing the Quiet Apocalypse, which is awesome. Anyway, massive tangent. Coming back to the idea of learning maps. So you could play on a lower difficulty level, like I said, Stalker if you're feeling up to it, but certainly Voyager if you're very new, if you want the game to kind of protect you a little bit, then use Pilgrim. Or you could use the custom code that I shared on episode 1 of Nomad that is kind of a tweaked Voyager that has, it's like Voyager, but it's got a few things that make it a little bit less obnoxious. Obnoxious in the way that I've been talking about this challenge being. Like, it makes the loot table a little bit less rich, but still gives you plenty to find. And also there's some adjustments to the exhaustion settings, which on that particular difficulty setting. Exhaustion is a weird setting in the Long Dark. When you look at the difficulty, distribution of like what that setting, as far as how quickly you get exhausted, when you look at the distribution of like which difficulties have what setting, most of the difficulties are the same, and then Interloper actually has less exhaustion rate. It's weird. So, and I think it's all but Interloper that have, like medium, and then, oh, there's a wolf right there. All right, so, hang on. Fishing cabin. So I think the fishing cabin is one of these down here. So we're going to go this direction. We're going to feel around in the dark a little bit here, but that's part of the fun. Don't quite know what all these locations are. But anyway, moral of that story is that playing on those lower difficulty levels, whether you're using my custom code from Nomad Episode 1, it's not the difficulty used in Nomad, but I shared the code for a custom Voyager on Nomad Episode 1, or whether you're just playing Voyager, playing Pilgrim, that's a great way to learn maps. It's a great way to figure out what you're doing. So going back to the discussion of like Coastal Highway, that's something that I might end up doing if I still feel like after another 6 months to a year, I have no idea what I'm doing in Coastal Highway. I just, for whatever reason, I've never, ever learned. This has been a winding, continuous thought, hasn't it? I've never, ever learned like the exact layout of the upper pathways of Coastal Highway. They zigzag and crisscross each other. I know kind of roughly how they function, in which ways they go, and where they lead, but I would like to be a little bit more certain, in the same way that I would like to be a little bit more certain of Timberwolf Mountain. You know? I just want to feel a little bit more at home. Alright, there's a soda. I don't need that sewing kit. It's just so weird. There's so many things. I don't even need those matches. I don't need them. Don't need them. Go away. Bye-bye. I don't need that book either. Either. Either or. I don't need it. It's not necessary. Goodbye. Alright, so fishing cabin. See, the one thing I'm thinking of is, could the fishing cabin actually be referring to the cabin at the very top of the zone? Maybe? If that's the case, then I'll be kind of annoyed because I passed by it on my way in. Make my day, wolf. Make my day. Where are you? I know you're there. Come on, try and jump me. I dare you. Oh, I think I heard a bear crow. Really? Can I not scale this? Thank you. Where the heck did that wolf go? There he is. Trying to scare me again? Didn't work. Nice try. Okay, I'm going to visit these one at a time. This is fishing camp. Hang on, let's see. Anything back here? Oh, wow. A couple of hooks in a line. If I were fishing, I would care about that. Aha. Okay, I literally picked the right one right away. Okay, so this is our first destination. Let's go ahead and look at condition. Ooh, 32% sardines. Let's go ahead and eat those while they don't pose too much of a threat. There we go. That's me tempting fate for entertainment value. All right, so there's this, and then the other one's easy. The other one's the Quonset. And then we need to go to Desolation Point, and then we need to go to Pleasant Valley, and then we go to Timberwolf Mountain. And then we're done. And then we're done. It'll be great. Okay, so interestingly, I can now drink some water, which I need to because I have a little bit more water than I know what to do with right now. And now I can sleep for 7 hours. And what I'm really hoping is that by doing that, I will wake up to a laptop that is on. Listen closely. Maybe. Oh, sad day. Might need to wait a little bit more. Oh, no, it's a storm. Okay, well, if it's a blizzard, then we might have to hang out here for a bit. But thankfully, we have a bed, and we can just chill until such time. We have plenty of food. And frankly, we need to lose some of this weight, so that might work out in our favor, all things considered. I think I saw a can of peaches. I'm just going to light this torch. No, excuse me. Yep, there's some peaches, and let's see if maybe there's a soda laying around anywhere. Oh. Is it on? That's interesting. So I'm guessing what's happening is that there is an aurora, but because there's a storm... Oh, that's weird. There totally is an aurora right now, but because there's a storm, we can't access this thing. This is the fishing cabin, right? It's literally where we are. All right. I'll tell you what. Let me... There we go. Okay. It's letting us do it now. Caught sight of another giant trawler today, maybe 10 miles off. Definitely American, but couldn't tell you its home port. I bet they're busier than I am. Oh, didn't mean to do that. That's the second time I've done that this series. All right, so now we have an interesting choice ahead of us because we could go ahead. We don't have to go that far. Let me get the rifle out. Let's just head to the Quonset right now. Why the heck not? Let's just get it done. We can make it over to the Quonset in one night. We're a little bit encumbered, but we'll be okay. And I mean, we can just be done with it in this episode. In the next episode, we can focus on getting to Desolation Point, which I'm doubting that we can get all the way to Desolation Point during this same aurora, but I'll try. I'll certainly try. It won't be same episode, but it'll be tomorrow's episode for you. But still, I'll certainly try. I just need to be ready for aurora wolves to pounce. Because there are definitely a couple right there. Yep, like that. First time for everything. Well, it's not the first time for me, but first time in this challenge. Come on, wolf. Let's go. Oh, did it lose me? No, it didn't. It still got me. All right, buddy. Let's go. That was lovely. Just a glowing wolf. Everything's fine. Glowing, glowy-eyed, evil-possessed wolf. Totally normal. Nothing to see here. Move along. I'm mainly keeping an eye on the ice as I move here. Nice moon. Just like in the muskeg. trying to remember which configuration the moon was in the muskeg, because I think that's I think it's a waning gibbous. I think. I don't remember exactly. My astronomy's a little rusty in terms of that specific terminology. It's either a waxing or a waning gibbous, which is the term for that crescent. When it's either shrinking or growing. Waxing is growing, waning is shrinking. But I don't know which direction that's going. I think it's waning. Okay, so now we are at the... Is this a new track? I don't know if I've heard this music before. I'm going to veer way off the road here, just to be safe. Oh, no. This is not a new track. It's just combining in an interesting way with the Aurora backdrop. Yeah, we're not... I don't think we're getting a Desolation Point. Oh, that's interesting. We could totally go down the mine right now, because that mine is lit. You can see, oh, hi. That was rude. I was, like, talking about something cool that I might do, Wolf, and you just, like, completely caught me by surprise. Why would you do that? Why would you ruin my fun like that? This is definitely one of the safest times to make that trip, but again, we're playing through the 2 easiest challenges in the game right now, so I would prefer to just keep things moving. I'm sure you understand. And that wolf is determined. I'm just gonna have to kill it. Can we talk about how satisfying the reloading sounds are in this game? Just every time that bolt comes back, I'm just like, It's just... It's nice. It's a very satisfying noise. I'm not apologizing for it. Okay, so we're almost to the Quonset. Not quite halfway through the night. So if the weather held, I mean, we could try to make it to Desolation Point. That would be an interesting way to begin with the next episode, like sprinting for Desolation Point, basically. Could certainly attempt it. It's weird to spend so little time looting. That's the biggest thing that I'm noticing right now. Because think, if we were playing, even on Stalker difficulty, but especially if we were playing on Interloper, if we were playing on an Against All Odds code, or anything similar to that, yeah, the idea of like bypassing this many loot locations and cars and such is just absurd. All right, so we're approaching the Quonset. There could be a wolf ahead, so there could also be a bear ahead. Could also be a moose ahead. There's an entire combination of possibilities that is a little bit more than we could potentially bargain for. So, just walking through here. Okay. Not seeing any immediate threats. The nice thing about the Aurora Wolves is that obviously they glow. They have that green tint to them, so they do stand out if you kind of take the high ground and survey the land as you approach an area. Then you can kind of notice where there may or may not be a threat right in front of you. And we have arrived. Deja vu, right? It wasn't too long ago we were arriving at the Quonset in the Nomad series. Apparently, a small tree tipped over in the storm last night. It was leaning up against the side of the garage when I pulled up this morning, and what did I see walking up around there? A wolf. I almost choked on my coffee. I left her be, and when I went out later, she was gone. Bill Farney stopped to fill his truck with some of his crew, and they were able to chop it up. I paid them in timber. Even now, the island still has a few tricks I haven't seen before. Folks at my old plant on the mainland would have lost it if they saw this. Interesting. I did it again. I don't know why it's just like natural to hit escape. Well, actually, I know exactly why. So, I want to explore here. There, I turned on the radio. I did it. I did it. I did it, guys. Listen and enjoy while I conclude this episode. In the next one, we're going to Desolation Point. Maybe even during this same aurora, but if that's the case, I need to stop wasting time by talking. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to follow along. If it's not your first time or even your second, look for the join button to access unique emotes, badges, and other perks. New episodes are coming out every day at 1 p.m. US Eastern Time. Comments are always welcome. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.